everybody, and welcome back to my channel. And if this is your first time here, welcome. This is Essential Patience and I am Patience. In today's video, we will be doing another episode of Stats Digest, but it will be slightly different. It's going to be as stats heavy as it is going to just be an analysis heavy. So as you can see by the title, we are going to be analyzing the natural hair community, its rise, its fall. And I'm not going to cover all bases because that would be a very long video. But hopefully in the future, I hope to go into certain different parts that I want to explore more. But today overall, we are going to be looking at different things in the natural hair community, how it became very popular and why it's going down and the problems within it. Overall, this is just an analysis video with my opinion sprinkled in on the different items, and it's just a video about giving credit where credit is due, as well as some constructive criticism about why it ended up the way it is and basically what we can do to be better at it. So diving straight into it, I discovered the natural hair movement around 2018. I had kept my hair short practically all my life. So going into college, I was going to an HBCU. I saw people with all different kinds of hairstyles. I was going in very new, and where I found comfort was in the natural hair community. All different kinds of curl patterns, all different kinds of methods, even when people's hair didn't look like mine. I just wanted support and I was just glad to be learning. The natural hair community is not what it is today. Let's start with number one of like how we got to be here. There has been a long history of hatred for black hair, especially in America. There have been rules in the past for black men to cover their hair, strive for assimilation. It's not even just from other races, it's even within the black community. People have been whitewashed or colonized to believe that your natural hair texture is inferior to that of what a non-black person. And this led to the rise of relaxers. If you're new here, you're probably thinking, girl, this girl got a relaxer in and she's just out here talking. This is a silk press, y'all. You can watch my other videos. I do normally just wear my natural hair, but it's this time of the year. I need a trim really bad. This is my second silk press ever, but I thought, it would be ironic. People would be watching like, not this girl talking about natural hair. But anyway, there's been a long history of people being anti-black hair within the community. It's outside the community. I'm talking about the black community. People trying to simulate, whether it's for work, for school. We have all seen a long list of people who have talked about hair discrimination. It's so much going on. So there's no wonder that a lot of people would want to assimilate and to have quote unquote good hair to not go through that discrimination on top of all the discrimination a black person already goes through. And if you have never watched this documentary called Good Hair, I would suggest you do. I've watched it several times and I agree with it. I especially watched it when I got older, even understood it more than when I was younger, when I didn't really have hair, and how true it is. It's still relevant. Like, this documentary was made over 10 years ago and it's still relevant in our world. Natural hair, there seems to have had a war waged against it for hundreds of years, and it's such a good thing when the natural hair community came along and it seemed like it was getting a revival. Black people were starting to be proud of their hair, to take care of it in a way that so many had forgotten because of getting hair straightened all the time. Relaxers, doing everything to destroy your natural curl pattern. I don't have a strong passion against people using relaxers. For me, it's about the health risk. There has been several sources and a documented history linking possibilities of like several cancers to continuous use of relaxers. And I know people are going to be like, well, I don't use relaxers that much. If you relax your hair, let's say I relax this hair, my hair is still going to grow. You relax what's on the outside, but as the hair grows, you're going to see the natural hair texture. So most people are at least relaxing their hair at minimum probably 3 times a year if they're keeping their relaxers in. Some do it even more, and this is linked to a lot of health risks over a continuous period of time. A lot of time people think it's just an attack and people force natural hair on you. For me, it's more about the health concerns. In my opinion, it's just not worth it, and I would suggest that you read up on it because it's really interesting and it's really eye-opening as well. Now I'm going to move on to the problems that I saw in the natural hair movement and how they contributed to their downfall. And one of the first things I would say is hair typing. Hair typing was something I found out about when I came into the natural hair community. It was never a big deal. I don't think I've done something ever, like had a process ever done my hair specifically because I was type 4 hair or whatever. But if you don't know what hair typing is, count yourself lucky, because this has been the cause of many internet brawls. Like, people would come down on you if you say you have type 4C hair, especially, and then they'll be like, no, that's not. Like, nobody apparently has seen what type 4 hair looks like, or type 4C hair. Type 1 hair is like mostly straight hair. Then type 2 is wavier kind of hair. Type 3 hair is more curly, and type 4 coily. The curls are more tightly packed together. So if you see my hair right now, I split it back, it goes about mid back length. I wash it. It can shrink up all the way to about here. But basically that's what hair typing is. It's just this scale of like, where does your hair fall? Hair typing was something that came along. I learned about it, and people would always like make a big deal about it. I'm not gonna say there's no validity there. It took a life of its own. People went towards those type of people with type 3 hair, type 2 hair, rather than people who had type 4 hair. Moving on, because I'm going to get into this deeper. Next was like hair porosity. Hair porosity is something I still don't really understand that much, and some people say if you want your hair to grow, just know your hair porosity. Like, that's it. You figured everything out. Everything. You have all the answers. Well, I didn't really figure it out. I seem to be doing okay. But hair porosity is, you put water on your hair, does it just go through it, or does your hair soak it up? And I guess it's supposed to be like the different types of products and like how you prep and style your hair. I think it was one of those things that it just happened to be popular. A lot of people really just still don't get it, but somehow it seems to hold a lot of weight to those who say they do understand it. So going into the third one, some of the problems was that people just couldn't seem to agree on certain things. And one of those things was LCO method. If you don't know what that is, it's a way of styling your hair. So LCO basically means liquid cream oil, and then LOC means liquid oil cream. It's just how you style your hair after it's been washed and conditioned. I stuck with the LCO method. It just made more sense to put oil to seal in the moisture in your hair. Some people argued about it. I saw a lot of disagreements on it, especially like around the time I just started getting into it. I didn't see this as such a big deal. I just chose which one worked best for me, and I think that's the problem with natural hair community. I always saw it as a way that you pick which one works for you. It just caused a lot of issues. I don't know if a lot of people feel as strongly about it now. I think maybe people found I was ridiculous, and people just could not agree to disagree that everybody's hair is not just a one size fit all. Different products may be good for some people's hair, and then some just is not for the other people. And there's nothing wrong with trying on different products. Some people were so against butter, like you can't use shea butter, you can't use any other butters in your hair, so anti them, and they felt like everybody else using it was wrong. They are the only people who are right, and their way is the only right way. Oh well, just because it didn't work for me, it doesn't work for everybody else. Instead of just saying that it didn't work for me, it might work for you, it might not. If it's not a harsh chemical that is destroying your hair, then people have the right to try it. If it doesn't work for them, it doesn't work for them. And something else people could not agree to disagree was how often you should wash your hair. Believe it or not, it was such a big deal. People would go in on other people like, you wash your hair too much, you don't wash your hair enough. It's ridiculous how people want to manage how often you wash your hair. And I understand the deal to a certain extent. Like, people should be keeping up their hair, their scalp. Like, having a clean scalp has a lot to do with growing healthy hair. How people wash their hair and how often, I don't think it's as big of a deal as some people made it. Like, some people will be like, oh, you're going 2 weeks without washing your hair, you're going 1 week, or that's too much washing of your hair. Some people will go in months without washing their hair, which I would not recommend. It was such a big deal, and I think a lot of these disagreements just really muddied the water in the natural hair community, because you couldn't really do anything right for too long before people jumped on another bandwagon, and then now you were in the wrong because of what you did and how you did it and how often you washed your hair and what kind of products you used and whether you use the LCO method or LOC method. Like, it was just a lot. Moving on to the next problem in the natural hair community is what I would call the hair type police. You would think it was an official position. I would sometimes just not even read the comments in the natural hair section, because if I saw a video of a girl who had hair that looked similar to mine, she called it type 4A, type 4B, type 4C. Like some of them will group it all in together. I have different types of hair on my head. It's a mixture of several, because people would go in and be like, oh, nice hair, but that's not 4C. And people would be like, well, this is not 4C hair. If this is 4C, then I'm 4Z. If this is 4C, then I'm 4D. Like, it just went on so long. It was ridiculous at some point. It's the 4C police, they will come after you. They will come after you if you say your hair is 4C and you have long hair. And that's another thing. I felt like my hair was more tightly coiled when it was shorter, but as it gets longer, because of gravity, it pulls it down. That's why the hair falls. I mean, maybe not everybody's hair falls, but most people's hair, it falls. And because it does, it stretches out. The curls are more looser because it's down, and especially depending on what style you wear your hair. So for example, I don't leave my hair to dry in its natural state, because who's gonna detangle it? So normally when I wash my hair, I put it into braids to dry. It makes the drying process much faster and it keeps them separated. So when I go into style it, it's much easier. You don't see my hair in its natural state. And I always understood that when I watch people's videos, like they washed their hair, they braided it so it could dry stretched. Just because it's stretched doesn't mean that's what their hair looks like when it's wet. But the 4C police would come and want to throw them in 4C jail because they call their hair 4C or 4B, and they'll be like, no, that's 3A hair. And you just can't win against these police, okay? You can't win. I think what really got me about a lot of these people is that while they were quick to police who had 4C hair, who didn't, or type 4 hair in general, they weren't really supporting as many girls who did have real type 4 hair versus girls who didn't have it. I see a lot of people in the comment section talk about how people with type 3 hair were taking over the natural hair community, but they themselves will rather watch those people than watch the people with type 4 hair. And then they'll complain that those people don't have type 3 hair. Or I rather wish I could see this style in type 4 hair. They would rather go with somebody who did not have their curl pattern and then complain about it. It was a bit hypocritical on that side. I watched people with all different hair types, but I knew my hair wasn't gonna look like that. I just watched it because I wanted to see that hairstyle, or because I like that YouTuber and I wanted to support them. But those hair police people turn off altogether. But let's move on to the next one, fleeting trends. This is probably in any community, whether it's in the beauty community of like makeup or fashion community. We all know there are like trends and fads and fashions that are just going on with natural hair. And hair for Black people and Black women especially was such a big deal. Some really took these trends as like the holy grail. They wanted to grow their hair. They were trying to find fast ways to grow hair and find a way to also love their hair. And so some of these trends that I saw was like the rice water trend, where a lot of people were using rice water to spray their hair because apparently women in Asia used it to grow really long hair. I'm not saying rice water does or does not work. I don't determine that because I've never tried it. It was just a lot to see people just jump straight in and use this as a way to grow your hair fast with rice water. You know, it wasn't a lot of about the caring and the journey. It was just these quick trends. Some people do it. I don't know if it's as much people as it was. Let me know if you ever tried the rice water trend. But let's move on to the next trend, which I was a victim of. I said victim because I really felt like a victim on this, which was co-washing. When I started my natural hair process, I was a broke college student. I didn't have that much money to be going towards a ton of products, but something that people said would help my hair to be nourished and everything was co-washing. And I used to do this very often. In fact, I would shampoo my hair one week, you know, do the conditioner and all those things, and then the next week I would co-wash, and then next week I would shampoo. And I did this for a while, like it was months, until I realized like, co-washing is putting conditioner on dirty hair, as if you've not taken a shower and then you're like moisturizing your body. Like you need to remove that dirt. So I don't know if it'll be detrimental to your natural hair journey. A lot of times we jumped on this trend without really sitting down and critically thinking about it. Why are we putting conditioner on dirty hair and just rinsing it out? Like it's not taking away the buildup, it's contributing to buildup. My hair did feel soft after co-wash, and I'm not gonna lie and say it didn't. But now that I think about it, it was just because it was just now a ton of products in my hair mixing together. And the next is not shampooing at all. I saw people who would not shampoo. Say what you want about shampoo, because a lot of times people will be like, it's stripping your hair. Of course it's stripping your hair. It's stripping the dirt out, and that's what conditioner is for, to replenish, and that's why you have leave-in conditioner, which you leave in to keep your hair conditioned. But the whole not shampooing trend is not something I ever tried. I could never get on that bandwagon. But for those who did, I really don't know what state their hair ended up in. Many stylists and many scientists in general will probably say wash your hair with some form of shampoo or clarifying products to remove all the buildup, because how else are you getting rid of all that buildup if you're not using a clarifying shampoo or some form of clarifying products in your hair? I'm going to move into a portion that I really found to be not as talked about as we should have in the natural hair community, which was unrealistic expectations. Like, it really boiled down to unrealistic expectations in the natural hair community, whether it was your curl pattern being what an influencer or a YouTuber's hair pattern was. I really found this to be damaging to a lot of people, and I could see how disappointed some people were in the comment section when their hair didn't turn out to be the way they thought their favorite influencer would be, which I always kind of knew that because I saw so many people with different hair types, and I never had long hair. Like, I always kept my hair probably below an inch before I started growing my hair, so I didn't know what to expect. It was just a lot of disappointment going on from people who thought they were going to go natural and have this hair texture. And then the next thing is people expecting their hair to grow very long in a short amount of time. Expect their hair to just be like Rapunzel by the end of the year. The average person grows about half an inch hair every single month, so that's about 6 inches a year. When you take that 6 inches, then you're talking about trimming split ends. If you have a few, probably some that breaks off, you're looking at maybe retaining a good 5 inches. I think retaining 5 inches of hair each year, really good and doable thing, even if it's less. Everybody's hair doesn't grow at the exact same rate, so you're not gonna grow waist length hair in a year or two. Also, when we see a lot of videos where people say grow hair to waist length in say 4 years, that's possible for some people. Where did they start from? For example, if I'm starting from here and I'm growing waist length hair in like 3 years, and let's say 3 years later my hair is waist length, this is my starting point. So when I'm talking about 3 years, I'm not talking about from when I had a half an inch of hair to waist length. I'm talking about when I have this length hair to waist length, which is easier to get there than say from scalp to waist length in 3 years. Because if I made such a video while I'm talking about how maybe I was able to overcome like a growth stunt, because some people will be like, okay, my hair was like this for a few years and then I finally got to waist length in 3 years from doing this. But I'm not telling you about the 4 years it took me to grow my hair to this length. So now if you add 4 years plus let's say an extra 3 years to waist length, we're talking now 7 years. Now that seems different from 3 years, doesn't it? Maybe your hair grows to waist length in 3 years, but you have to consider certain things like your height and then your head to your torso and to your waist proportions versus somebody else. So some people have a shorter torso and they have like a shorter upper body, so it's easiest for them to get from head to waist length versus somebody who is taller. If you consider somebody who is waist length and 6 feet tall to somebody who has waist length hair also but is 5'5", the hair is not probably gonna be the same. When you see people on the internet talk about waist length hair in this amount of years, you have to take into consideration where they started and how tall they are, not just how fast their hair grows and not just how many inches of hair they are retaining. It can just be as simple as they're shorter than you. And sticking to the number 4 on the unrealistic list is basically the time management in your hair. I don't understand how people thought that people with jobs have an entire day to dedicate to their hair. That whole wash day fiasco, wash day, who has an entire day to wash their hair or to style their hair? Now I know some hairstyles takes longer than others. I've not blow dried my hair in such a long time, but if I do, the time it takes to wash my hair, I'm thinking about like an hour, then it takes me about an extra hour to distribute products and to like evenly detangle, and then the blow drying process is going to take probably another hour. So I'm looking at like 3 hours. Like if I'm doing mini braids, it takes 5 hours. If I'm doing twists, it's taking a good 4 hours. Like it takes time. For a lot of people, make it seem like such a huge amount of work. For me, I know like if I do mini braids and it takes me 5 hours, I'm wearing those braids in my hair for like a month. All the other times it's gonna be simple. I'm just gonna wake up and go, wake up and go. I mean, what's easier than that? And I'm gonna wash them a few times in between, and it's still gonna look okay. Still gonna take a lot of time once in a while, but it shouldn't be like spending so much time on hair. Sometimes I just want to be like, it's just hair, people, it's just hair. But I understand like it has a lot of connotations in the Black community, so I don't want to just downgraded to that. When you find a way to simplify it, your hair thrives, because not only are you not manipulating for an entire day, but it's so simple that you'll be able to repeat it over and over and over again. And let me tell you, repetition of those simple routine is what really benefits your hair, because it's consistent and your hair stays healthy. Now that we're moving on from unrealistic expectations, we're getting to next section, which is basically draining DIYs. So continuing from my last point, which is about wash days, it's about how long wash days are because of DIYs. Again, you should not be taking an entire day to do your hair, especially if you're doing it every week or every other week. Like, that's a lot of time that you could be spending on much bigger and better things, in my opinion. But DIYs are so draining. People are doing so many things to their hair in one day that it's taking them an entire day to wash their hair. And it's not just the rice water methods of using it, it's also about the products that people do, like DIY masks. That's one of my things that I've never done. People putting yogurt and eggs and avocado. And the worst thing, in my opinion, is when people are like, oh, just take things that are in your fridge and just blend it in a blender and then use it on your hair. You think I have an avocado in my fridge and I wasn't gonna eat it? I wasn't gonna eat the avocado in my fridge, or yogurt. Like, I don't even buy yogurts. So if I bought it, it was because I was gonna eat it. Same with my eggs. Ask any Ghanaian, okay? They were gonna eat their egg. A lot of time, these are more expensive than literally just buying a regular expensive product that would have helped your hair anyway, or even a non-expensive product. Imagine using an avocado, egg, yogurt, mayo. What else do they put in your hair? Whatever else, aloe vera. So you're buying like 5 products to put in your hair. Like, that mask alone is costing you minimum $5, and most likely than not, you're using it all in one day. So think about it. You're buying $5 worth of mask to use in your hair one day in a month. And if you wash your hair every single week, that's $20 in 4 weeks. You could have literally just bought a $20 mask and use it in your hair. It would have lasted you much longer than that. This whole DIY mask of like grab anything in your fridge and just use it, it's not mean it's cheaper. It's really not cheap. Most people don't have all those products in their fridge, that at least that they weren't gonna eat. Like, I don't just buy food in my fridge that I'm not gonna eat. I'm not. Everything in my fridge, I'm gonna eat it. Like, I'm not just putting it in there just because we're getting like a free supply shipment every single month. You just get free groceries. Have you seen how much groceries cost these days? If I buy it, I'm eating it. So in my opinion, those DIYs are draining. They cost way too much, and it's simpler to just stick to clinically proven products. And speaking of clinically proven products, we're going to move into the next section, the productification of natural hair. So this is where the natural hair movement turned Black women into natural hair junkies. It is statistically proven that Black men spend more money on their hair than any other group of women. Especially when the natural hair movement came along, a lot of people started buying a ton of products, and we started having all these product junkies because people are looking for quick results. Most hair products can never miraculously grow your hair to the perfect curl pattern you want, just long to the length you want in a short amount of time. That's not possible. At least I've not seen it. Let me know if you have. And I think a lot of women were looking for that. They were looking for that magic product, and so they will buy all these products with all these promises, and they will use it a few times, and when they don't get the results that they want, grow their hair 6 inches in 2 months, they will just discard it and move on to the next product. And they kept buying and buying, and these corporations profit off of that. The natural hair community and beauty influencers, they knew that a lot of people were looking for that. They wanted hair to look like theirs, that they were willing to try and to shed out money. A lot of times people had so many products, and it was promoted to have all these different products. And personally, I have a lot of the same products of the same things, but even when I buy a product and it's not like, oh, chef's kiss, I can still use it a lot of times till it finishes, because I don't like to waste products unless it's like detriments and stuff. But normally I just do my research beforehand. If we're able to look at products more as a helper than something that's going to change your life and change your hair game, and we thought of the routine is the best thing, but the products just help to carry on to the next level, then people would not feel so tempted to buy so many products. An unpopular opinion of mine is that being natural is much cheaper than having a relaxer. Like, as long as you have a good shampoo, deep conditioner, leave-in conditioner, oil, like, you're practically good. All those other products, they're basically just styling tools. The basics are not that expensive, and you don't need to go buy a $50 conditioner for your hair to thrive. And if you think it is, let me know why, and how you think it's expensive. Now let's get into the next section, which I call chokehold. This is basically talking about the chokeholds that had the natural hair community, stopping it from thriving and becoming the success it could. One of that is curly hair. And I know like a lot of times people have curly hair, or as I talk type 4 hair, especially it's coily. That wasn't good enough, was it? People had to talk about curl definition always, about that curl definition and the wash and go. I remember the first time I wanted to do a wash and go, and I thought it's a wash and you go. Well, that's not how it works. It's more like a wash and add a ton of products and coil and curl. And I've tried it twice. It didn't work for me. I moved on. So I don't do the whole curl definition thing. It really had a chokehold on the natural movement for a really long time, and you can appreciate it, but my goodness, if it wasn't too much. This led to inevitably is people preferred natural hair influencers that had the curl patterns that they wanted. So especially for unambiguous black women with type 4, 4C hair, more coilier hair, who couldn't get that curl definition that people were after, they got less exposure. And then it led to a lot of sponsorships moving away from a lot of black women into a lot of mixed women, women who are biracial, who could get that curl definition that people wanted. Those products and companies could market to black women who wanted that, but then their hair type is not the same. Next is baby hairs and edges. If anything still has a chokehold, it's that. It is that. Baby hairs. I mean, nowadays they're barely baby hairs. Those things are teenagers, they're adults. They need to start paying some rent. Do what you want, it's your hair. Sometimes people even would ask like, why I don't lay my edges? It's because I don't want to. Like the chokehold it has on the black community, and having that silk laid hair and curled up all in the front, I really think like sometimes it does something to our minds on what we see our hair, because our hair doesn't naturally do that. Do as you may, like that's not my point. My point is just analyzing this natural hair community impact that it could have had and it was destined to have. And I really think that baby hair had a real chokehold on the natural hair community, and we really can't move forward still holding on to this chokehold. It needs to go. Like we need to break it in the name of Jesus. And the last chokehold I will be analyzing is length obsession. The way people are obsessed with length of hair, like it's so obsessed that sometimes people will keep dead ends and hair that clearly needs to go in the name of length. People prioritize length over health of hair. You would see that people who obviously had longer hair would get more exposure than the people who had shorter hair. And I understand, because we have longer hair, probably have more experience. And it's also about building a community. If we stop being so obsessed with length and try to do everything we can to get long hair, then you would realize that hair grows, and it grows from the scalp. And it's about doing and having good practices to maintain the health of your hair. Trying to shortcut your way to growing 2 years worth of hair in 6 months, I mean, my goodness, it's a lot of pressure to put on yourself and to put on influencers and to put on hair products to get you that. For me, I know that my hair hasn't always been this is the longest my hair has ever been. So when I started 1 year in, my hair wasn't gonna look like this because I was 1 year in. 3 years in, my hair still didn't look like, because I was 3 years in. Now that I'm 4.5 years in, this is what it looks like. Focus on healthy hair, clean hair, and a good hair routine, and that would support hair growth. The next section is what I'm calling the wigification of natural hair. And this is no shade on wigs. There are a lot of people who use them, and it can really be helpful, especially people who have lost their hair, people who just want to change up their hair. When the natural hair community started moving towards a lot of protective styling that were not just like cornrows and mini braids and mini twists, it moved towards wigs, and a lot of those wigs were very much Eurocentric wigs. Let's admit it. Like it wasn't like a lot of them were coming out with kinky coily wigs and Afro wigs. A lot of them were wearing Eurocentric wigs. And that's okay too. I think it was almost anti-natural hair movement. We can discuss this in the comment section further if you have any input on this. But I think that a lot of times the reason why the natural hair community started was so that people would see natural hair in everyday setting. It was about acceptance and making sure the world accepts us in our natural hairstyle, different types of hairstyles. When really promoted those wigs as protective style, and what it did was that it put away natural hair for the hair that people were trying to fight against. It's not even fight against, but like have the freedom to not do. It's a slippery slope with that one, because on one hand, I really understand. But seeing that a lot of times people go for Eurocentric wigs and you don't really see your hair till once in a while. The context is in the natural hair community, which was supposed to make natural hair visible and acceptable towards the world. Like, this is who we are and this is what our hair looks like. It says a lot, and maybe it's just, it didn't do much for natural hair. That's what I'm trying to say with the wigification of natural hair, because I know how some people felt about it, and I'm trying to like also make sure like the input of other people are in this, of like how they felt when a lot of natural hair influencers are wearing Eurocentric wigs, not showing their natural hair for months and months. And I also understand somebody who might be like, okay, I just want to put my hair away and I want to try something new. So maybe my hair is waistline, but I want to try a bob. And if I ever wanted a bob, I'll probably go get a wig. I don't know, I've never worn a wig before, but I'll probably just end up getting one. If you've been in the natural hair community for any length of time, I mean any length of time, and you've watched any video of anybody with longer hair, especially if they're giving natural hair advice, and you look in the comment section, 9 times out of 10 you would hear somebody or see somebody write something saying it's genetics. Let me know in the comment section if you see it too. It's always like, it's genetics, it's genetics. Yeah, it's genetics. Nope, no, her hair is long like that because it's genetics. And for me, I just never believed that. This is the longest my hair has ever been. I don't know, I didn't need my ancestors to know what their genetics look like, but it's like nobody has done a genetics test on anybody. So how do you know it's people's genetics? Like, do you know what their mother looks like, their father, their great-grandparents, their siblings, their cousins? How do you know it's their genetics? And sometimes that's why I personally try to stay away from those conversations, because people would always say it's genetics, it's genetics, it's genetics. Out here thinking that every long hair has to do with genetics. So people ask people, are you mixed? What are you mixed with? White, Indian, Asian, like whatever it is, because black hair doesn't grow. And then when black hair grows, it's somehow genetics, because somewhere, somehow, something must have happened genetically for it to happen. It can never just be because you take good care of your hair. It can never be because you have a good hair routine. It can never be because you're eating right, exercising, and taking good care of your body, and so your body is able to produce long, healthy hair. It's never that. It's always like, it's genetics. I'm tired of it. I think it's almost has negative attitude with it, to think that somebody is doing all that they're supposed to do and they're really taking pride in taking steps to really grow and to protect their hair to have it flourish, that somehow they don't get any credit that it's genetics. Because some people say stuff like, oh, my hair reaches shoulder length and it never grows past that. Does your hair say, well, it's not shoulder length, so let me not grow? But your hair grows from your roots, not from the ends. So even if you have a relaxer, you're relaxing your hair every, I don't know, 2 months or whatever, it's because there's new growth. So obviously your hair is breaking from the ends, not because your hair is not growing. Unless you have been clinically diagnosed some sort of medical condition on your hair, I would say that we're not talking about genetics. Like, the average person grows 6 inches of hair a year. Things that have to do with medical is the exception, not the rule. So for people to have this adamant thing that it just has to be genetics, the narrative is tiring, and I'm tired of it. I'm sure a lot of people are. I think if you want to move past the it's genetics and have the natural hair be successful, we have to take into notice that sometimes it's not genetics. Maybe sometimes it's just your natural hair not being properly cared for, and we have to take some responsibilities in what we're doing. Because I remember when I was cutting my hair every few months and keeping my hair short, nobody said you have good genetics where you're growing long hair because you're cutting it every few months. But then when later, then everybody just claims it's genetics, even though they never saw said genetics work prior. So where is the natural hair community now? And that depends, because I feel like it's breaking apart. I still have a lot of natural hair content on my Instagram because I just love seeing hair being done. And I do some of the reaction videos on my channel, and it's because I really think it's a beautiful thing to see people care for their hair, and Black women especially learn about their hair and just take pride in doing it and demonstrating and teaching other women how to do so. Where we are right now, it's like some people are going the no oil movement, some people are abstaining from oil altogether, and I think a lot of people are doing the whole shrunken hair thing, so they're keeping their hair in a shrunken state, which is something I did with almost 2 years of my hair growth. Nowadays, people are not always taking people's word as the Bible. They're finding their own way and how to take care of their own hair, because at the end of the day, it's their hair, it's on top of their head, and they probably know more about it than anybody else. I see a lot of people going back to wigs as a way of protective styling. A lot of people say natural hair and take care of their natural hair is a lot of work, so they just put on a wig, quick weaves. And I see some people going back to the relaxers. Either their hair didn't pan out the way they wanted, their texture was not what they wanted, the length didn't get to what they wanted, or it's just too much work. So I've seen a lot of people also go back to relaxers, which in my opinion is very concerning because of the health implications it could possibly have in their future. But I just do what works for me, and that's where I stand. I really think that hair is such a personal thing, and where we go from here is that people just should mind their own business, especially the 4C police. Yes, I think that's where we go from here. And this last section is just my personal opinion on hair. The first one is that if you haven't already gathered, I believe that food DIYs in your hair is not great. I believe people should stop putting food in their hair. I've heard of cases where people had avocado stuck in their hair, like chunks of avocado, and it's no fun to get them out. I'd rather just leave the formulation to the chemist and have them do their work. But if I ever try something, because who knows, I could change my mind, I will let you know. I also think the natural hair community and the natural hair movement as a whole was not a failure. That it helped a lot of people. I felt really embraced in it. Like, I wasn't really an active participant as much as I could, but I really got a lot of knowledge from it. And I felt like I fit right in, and I learned a lot, and I really enhanced my knowledge on how to care for my hair, because not everybody has somebody to tell them exactly what they can do to care for their hair. And I really felt at community with a lot of girls and women who were saying like, yeah, I didn't really learn how to care for my natural hair, and I want to. And I really think that's where its success came in. It's in the individual impact it had and the individual knowledge it enhanced. And so for me, as a person who benefited so much from the natural hair influencers and all those tons of content, I can never say the natural hair community was a failure. Just like any other community, it has its positives and it has its negative. And of course, there were always those trolls who were just there to bring the mood down for everybody. So I would just like to end this video by saying thank you to the natural hair community, because 18-year-old me starting to grow my hair didn't really know much, and right now I'm 22 years old. I've learned so much and I've come such a long way. And so with that, I hope a lot of you found something great out of the natural hair movement, even if it's just one thing of like, I now use heat protectants instead of just flat iron my hair, or maybe I deep condition my hair more often. We can all appreciate all of the many voices that helped bring the natural hair community up, made us so proud of our hair, brought so many women out of this feeling that their natural hair wasn't good enough or it wasn't good hair, but rather to make us know that no matter what state our hair is in, it's still good hair, and healthy hair is good hair, and it deserves to be shown, it deserves to be embraced, and it deserves to be loved. And with that, thank you so much for sticking around. I know this is gonna be practically a long one. I hope you learned something. I definitely learned a lot from the natural community. Let me know in the comment section what you learned, and remember to like this video and subscribe to my channel. It helps me out very much. Remember to ring the notification bell, because I post a video twice a week on Tuesdays and Fridays. Come over and see what we are talking about. Thank you for watching once again, and I'll see you in the next one.